It is mailbag time here on the channel. Remember, if you ever want to get on a mailbag show, pretty simple. You just got to subscribe to the channel. That way, when I put a call out on our community channel, you can answer and comment away your questions. So, without further ado, let's get into the first question. It comes in from Marshall Walker. Marshall Walker asking, is there any chance of Watson coming to Denver still? So the Denver and Deshaun Watson trade rumors were pretty big last offseason, and then Deshaun Watson and that bombshell of a 22 sexual allegations case against him dropped, and the Broncos pretty much pulled themselves out of the race. I have not heard even a whisper, really, of Deshaun Watson being interested or the Broncos being interested in getting after him, so I would say the idea of that happening is pretty low at this point, but if the Broncos strike out on Rodgers and they don't get Wilson, and all of a sudden the Vikings don't want to move on from Kirk Cousins, and Peyton's like, well, here's my number 3 choice, and then the 49ers ship off Jimmy G somewhere else, and that all happens really quickly, a very small potential of all those sequences happening. Maybe they're still interested. I'm sure they'd like to have a player like Deshaun Watson, at least on the field-wise, but you don't want to trade for someone who could be going to jail, so you got to weigh that into it as well. Do you want the Broncos to pursue Deshaun Watson, though? Give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Curious how we feel about this one, because this is the 2020 passing title, right? He had led the NFL in yards 2 seasons ago, but sat out this year with all that stuff going on, didn't play a snap, and his future, I wouldn't say is in doubt, but it's just murky to say the least. Let's get to our next question, and coming in from a loyal subscriber, appreciate you, All Out Broncos. Should we re-sign Chubb on a long-term deal or let him walk into free agency next year? I think we should let him go into free agency. I don't think you're wrong for saying I think we should let him walk. He's on his 5th-year deal, a 5th-year option this year, and you look at the last 4 years for Bradley Chubb, after that booming rookie season back in 2018, his biggest issue has kind of been staying on the field. He had the injury in 2019 that kept him off the field for much of the season. 2020, got on 14 games. You can't ask for always 16, but just 7.5 sacks. It's a huge drop-off from that 12 in his rookie year. Then this past year, it's just frustrating seeing him get hurt in that Jags game in week 2 on kind of a, the ankle injury, pushed it a little too soon. And then when he came back, had the nice interception, was against the Chargers, I think, memory serves me correctly, but 0 sacks. So if you want to let him walk, I wouldn't hate for that. To me, it comes down to if Bradley Chubb goes out and gets 10-plus sacks in 2022, I'd sign him to a deal. I'd sign him not to a 5-year, 4-year deal, a huge monstrous contract. But if he wants to take a bit of a hometown discount and hang around in Denver for a 2-year deal with a 3rd-year option, sure. But anything less than 10 sacks, I think it's good to maybe just part ways and find a new edge rusher. Let's get our crystal balls out, though, and predict how many sacks Bradley Chubb will have in 2022. Do you think he'll have more or less than 10, maybe? I'll predict it at 9, and I think that would just be short for Peyton to go, you know what, it's been a goodish couple of years here. Bit of a bust in terms of being a top 5 pick, but not a bust of a player. Let's just, shake hands and go our separate ways. Next question coming in from Joey. Joey Baca says, should the Broncos get Devin Lloyd in the mock draft, roll with Locke, and see how he does with Hackett as head coach, re-sign Kareem Jackson, and sign Von Miller? That's a lot of options right there, Joey. Appreciate the question, though. So, 4 things you're asking, and here's my grades on those 4 things. If the Broncos were to draft Devin Lloyd, I give it a B+ or an A-. The reason why I'm just sticking with giving myself 2 options there is if they draft Devin Lloyd after getting a veteran quarterback, A-. I'd like to pick a lot. I love the idea of having Devin Lloyd and Pat Surtain be the cornerstones of your defense. But if they don't have a quarterback, maybe they could have used that 9th overall pick on a QB. As for the idea of starting Drew Lock or rolling with him, C+. Listen, we've seen a lot of starts out of Drew Lock, and I'm going to get some hate for this, but it's my honest opinion that Drew Lock, I think, is an NFL quarterback. I don't think he's a starting NFL quarterback for a team that is ready to win right now with a loaded roster. I've just seen too much inconsistency out of Locke. I know a lot of people will say it's the coaching staff that's done him wrong, and that's not false, but 2 things can be true at once. Locke is not a consistent NFL starting quarterback, and the coaching staff in the last 2-3 seasons has not done him any favors. As for the idea of bringing back K-Jack, B-. If he wants to come back on a veteran minimum deal, sure. But I like to see Caden Stearns and Justin Simmons start next year. And then for Von Miller, if Von wants to return after the Broncos went out and got Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson, hell yeah, A- for me. If they don't, it'd be kind of similar to last year if they go for another rental quarterback, so B+ in that department. But I'll never turn down the idea of reuniting number 58 in Denver. Guys, if you have not subscribed to the channel already, please do so. That way you can get in on the next mailbag video. So if you want to ask a question, if you want to get on the show, that's what's so great about us here at Chat Sports. It's all about audience interaction. It's not just a talking monkey up here. I love to see what you guys have to say and get your voices and opinions heard on the show for everyone to hear. So hit that big red button and subscribe. Let's go to our next question coming in from Brendan's Blends. With there being several quarterbacks the Broncos can trade for, what do you think a regular season record would be for each possible QB? Rodgers, Garoppolo, Wilson, and Cousins. Brendan, this is a really cool question, and I liked it, so I could put it in the show. Here's the wins I would attribute. It's like baseball almost, war, for each quarterback. I think if the Broncos go out and get Aaron Rodgers, they're a 12-win team. Green Bay the last couple seasons, 13-win season. Maybe he takes one less win as he, gets used to his new surroundings in Denver. Russell Wilson, 11 wins. Kirk Cousins, 10. And Jimmy Garoppolo, I think Garoppolo has benefited a lot from working with Kyle Shanahan and having a great run defense. I don't think he's a bad quarterback, though, so give me north of 500 for Jimmy G. That's how many wins I would put for each QB if they were on the Broncos next year. We'll get to the rest of the mailbag in just a second, but there's a great deal going on when you go to Fanatics and you go to chatsports.com/Broncos hoodie. This hoodie comes in multiple colors. Use that link. Got to use that link. That way you can get hooked up with tons of deals, tons of sales happening over at Fanatics. I'll have the link in the comments and the description of the video. Check them out. chatsports.com/Broncos hoodie. Let's get to Mick Walsh asking, what do you think will stay? Or who do you think will stay? Josey Jewell or A.J. Johnson? So both linebackers are set to hit free agency this offseason. Both of them coming off injury plague or injury ruined season, I should say. And if you compare the career stats between the two of them, it's pretty lopsided. A.J. Johnson takes the cake. Now, Jewell, I really wanted to see him have a breakout year this year. It's unfortunate that he went down so early because you didn't get a full picture of what to expect out of him. I hope the Broncos are somehow able to find a way to bring both these guys back on team-friendly deals. But for me, if you look at the stats and you look how kind of lopsided they are, I lean more towards A.J. Johnson. One, he's just been a better player. And two, he went to my alma mater, Tennessee. And I think we can all agree there's no better feeling than when your college team overlaps with your pro team and you're like, this is the best because I get to tell everyone about this guy and I already know everything about him. So I would lean more towards A.J. Johnson. Hunter with the next question, Hunter Manchibo. With a shift in basically the entire coaching staff of the Broncos and with the new owner soon to come, what is the general goal in the short term and long term? What can fans expect knowing we have the players on offense and defense to make it to the playoffs? And finally, what is going on at the QB position? Let's go Broncos. Hunter, that's a pretty big question right there. I like the question a lot because I'm tired of Broncos Country not being relevant for 5+ years now, it feels like, ever since the year after the Super Bowl, essentially. You really could argue since the Super Bowl. So, plan for short-term and long-term, better include the playoffs, and it better include sometime soon. I know that's a little lofty just because this team hasn't made the playoffs in a little bit, but the talent is there. This was one of the best rosters last year. I remember going into the 2021 season thinking, this is a 10-win team. This is a wild card round team, and ultimately the offensive mindset and the offensive game planning and scheming let the team down and was a disappointment. So, listen, I really appreciate the question. I love the passion the Broncos Country has because I'm not settling for mediocreness. I'm tired of it. I don't want to see another 7-win season. So, hopefully the short-term and long-term plan includes some Lombardi trophies. All right, final question. Ben Simmons' jump shot. What do you grade George Paton's first season as a GM? It's a tough question to answer. Appreciate the question. But it's just tough to answer after one season because so much of the GM's job is about drafting. And you can't really evaluate a draft class after just one season. So I can't grade the picks just yet, although the reports are pretty good so far. I like the Javonte Williams. I love Pat Surtain. The only thing that could be looming over him is if one of the quarterbacks that Peyton passed on, Justin Fields or Mac Jones, goes on to be the next big thing for that team. And you're like, damn, you know what? As great as Surtain may be, he could be an all-pro corner. At the end of the day, you take a good quarterback over a good cornerback. But I'll give it an A- for the time being. I'm not going to give it an A+ just because the Broncos didn't make the playoffs. And, he's not in the field. He's not like coaching. But still, we can give me an A-. What would you grade it, though? Let's end the show on this question. Grade George's first season for me, A, B, C, D, or F. Make sure you put those votes in down below, and we will catch you guys later here on the Broncos Breakdown.